Hey, so in this video we're going to be taking a quick look about how it's like to drive in wet conditions on Assetto Corsa EVO. I'm not going to be looking in depth about how the weather system works, the dynamic weather or anything like that. I just want to take a quick look and see how the car handles on a wet surface to see if there's any kind of difference in behavior when you drive over the rubbered line. Bit like how iRacing does it now. iRacing probably does the best job of rain in any sim at the moment, the way it handles the rubbered line when the rain starts falling. So I'm going to get on track, and today we're going to be driving the Porsche 992 Cup car, and with the setup it's basically just whatever's default. We've got wet tyres on. Actually, the first thing that I think I'm going to try is slick tyres on a wet track. Let's have a quick look and see how slippery or not slippery it is to drive on a heavy wet track. Let's give it a go. So I'm heading out the pits on slick tyres. Okay, the first thing I'm going to try is we're going to come to a standstill. We're going to nail it. They get wheel spin, but it's relatively easy to control. As we get to the turn, it does become a bit of a boat. But how much grip do we have? I mean, it works. Okay, alright. I mean, I feel like I should be getting more understeer. There is a decent amount of front end. We're on slick tyres, remember, so we should be skating across the wet surface, but I don't know, it just feels like there's a bit of understeer. Maybe I did go across the rubbered line. We're gonna, okay, the rear end is a little bit on edge, there we go. That was a very easy slide to catch. I feel like I should have probably lost that slide. There's a very wet patch on the inside there. Very curious. Shall we try to do a full lap in the wet, see what kind of lap time I get, and then we can compare it afterwards and see what kind of time I can do with wet tyres. Let's give that a go, shall we? Okay, coming out the final chicane. I'm going to try survive a lap here, Suzuka, in the wet on slick tyres, and we'll take a look at the lap time. Maybe my wheel's not straight. Oh, there we go. Alright. How are we going to do in the first turn? Okay, it is a bit slippy. So there's definitely some stuff going on there in the braking zone. Whether it's just the slick tyres or the fact that I braked on the rubbered line, I'm not sure. Right, you know what? I kind of messed that one up. I'm just going to quickly run through, do a lap, see what kind of time I can do, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, well let's give this another go. See if I can survive a lap. Well, I can tell you what, there's definitely a lack of grip on those rubbered lines, the traditional racing lines. There's definitely a huge lack of grip down there in the center or on the inside. I have to drive more towards the center of the track to find more grip. That's a good sign. It's very promising. Assetto Corsa Competizione was not like this. You could kind of just drive on the racing line on ACC and you'd be fine. So you do have to experiment a little bit with your lines on this. I do like to see that. Definitely an improvement over ACC. A bit more like real life. In comparison to iRacing's wet line, that's kind of hard to tell at the moment. And if there are puddles on track, I'm finding it quite difficult to see if there are puddles, because you kind of see these like wet patches on the side of the track, like right there, but it just looks like the track's more damp than the other parts of the track. It doesn't really look like a puddle as such. So it's hard to tell, are those actually puddles or just more damp parts of the track? I think there was a bit of a puddle that I just drove over there. Alright, made it this far. We have to be careful through 130R. Gonna have to brake pretty early here. Oh, very slippy there. Use these inside curbs, they don't hurt us too much. Alright, one more turn. Just hanging on, and there we go. Let's get to the line, see what sort of lap time this is. Okay, so we've done a 2 minute 29.9 there, basically a 2 minute 30. And this is not a test of how fast I can go in the rain and slick tyres. This is just more of a test of what kind of lap time can I do comfortably in the wet on slick tyres. Like, am I struggling to keep the car on the track? And to be quite honest, it's fairly easy to keep it on the track if you're sensible and not braking too late. You do have to brake very early. But let's try the wet tyres now. And just a quick shout out to Chemists. If any of you guys are looking to pick up some new sim racing equipment, maybe a new set of pedals or a new wheelbase, then be sure to check out the link that I've got in the description. And if you do decide to purchase anything from Chemist, then be sure to use the code UNLEASHED at checkout. That'll give you a small little discount and it'll also give me a little commission on the products sold. I've been using their 15Nm wheelbase for the last couple of years, and it's been the best wheelbase experience I've had so far. And they also have the C5 wheelbase, which is a 5Nm direct drive wheelbase, which is a great starting point for direct drive wheelbases at a very low price. They've also got the C12, and I'm sure many more products to come. So if you are looking to upgrade your gear, then have a look in that link in the description. Okay, so let's see what my first impressions will be on the wet tyres in the rain. First turn, I can already feel, yeah, it's definitely biting a lot more. However, I do still feel like the slicks had a bit too much grip. Now, another thing I've definitely noticed, if you get the curbs, they curb at a decent amount of grip. If we get on the green stuff, yeah, well, okay, those are very slippery, as they should be, so it's nice to see that they've done that properly. Because in the wet, curbs are extremely slippery and you pretty much want to keep off of them at all costs. Mostly outside curbs, you can cut over inside curbs in the wet, you don't usually get affected too much. Depends on what kind of turn it is. From the brief driving I've done so far around this turn, the wet line's very slippery. So I've got to be very cautious off the throttle through there. We'll avoid the puddles. There's a bit of a wet patch on the outside of the track there, but didn't seem to affect us too much. Let's just step out into this stuff over here. Oh yeah. Okay. So that painted strip right there has absolutely zero grip. This kind of stuff you want to keep well off of in the wet. Okay, so let's give it a decent go around Suzuka in the wet with wet tyres this time. I already feel from the outlap I'm a lot more confident around the turns and the braking zones as well. They're just a lot more confidence inspiring. Right, down to the first turn I should be able to brake a bit later than I did, or a bit more aggressively than I did on the slick tyres. Carry a bit more speed through here as well. Still isn't huge grip out there. Go. Yeah, it feels a bit nicer. Definitely can't use the inside of the track though. Those puddles, if they are puddles, or the rubbered line is super slippy. Just doesn't want me to go there. So I'm actually having to experiment with my lines to go faster. So good to see. Use the inside curb there to shorten my line a bit. Use a bit of the inside curb here. Probably wasn't optimal, but it worked. Now down to the hairpin, or up to the hairpin again. Sweep all the way around here where the track is a bit cleaner. This bit I'm still a bit scared of, there's absolutely no grip through there. Pushing across the track again. Ooh, but sideways. That's a spoon curve. Bring it to the inside. Slowly build up the throttle. Keeping off the curbs, because as we discovered before, those things are super slippery. 130R. Should be able to go a bit quicker than I did on the slicks. Yeah, there's a lot more confidence in going into there. The final chicane. Use the inside curbs to shorten our line. Not the best line that I took that time around, but oh, big old slide. There's a lot of slip angle just then. I'm not sure if I should have been able to catch that, but here we are at the line. 2:23. That's only about 7 seconds quicker than the slick tyres. I mean, I still think those slick tyres had a bit too much grip. I should have been struggling to keep the car on the track. The actual wet tyres around the track, it felt pretty good. Like, there's not a huge amount of grip, but there's enough, and you can't use the dry line, the rubbered line. It's not the fastest way around. As you can see, it just gets me sideways. And there's the limit right there. That sent us around into a spin. Yeah, so this has just been a little quick test of how the cars drive a bit like in the wet. My comments so far, I really like how the car drives with wet tyres in the wet. That felt really good. The slick tyres in the wet, too much grip, I think. You should be struggling to get around on the slick tyres. Think about like Lando Norris 2021 in Russia. Do you remember that race where the rain started coming down and he just couldn't keep on the track at all? It should be a bit more like that when you're on the slick tyre. You should be struggling to keep the car on the track, because that's why we have wet tyres, right? We use them to keep the car on the track and drive a bit faster. We're only about 7 seconds faster on the wet tyre. So, slick tyre needs a bit of work in the rain, but wet tyre is feeling solid, and I love the way they've set it up so that the rubbered line, you can't use that for the optimal lap times in the wet. I'll have to take a bit more of a look and study this a bit harder in the future. I'm looking forward to testing out the dynamic weather. It'll be interesting to see how the rubbered line goes the more rain comes along, because you'd think the more rain there is, eventually that rubbered line will start clearing up a bit and you'd be able to use it a bit more. But so far, really good. I like that you can use the throttle. You can get a bit of a slide on and you can catch it. At the moment, there's almost a little bit too much slip angle. I could catch really big slides. The one I just had before, that was the limit where it's finally spun me around. If they could just narrow that angle a little bit more, I think we'd be almost perfect. But yeah, for now, that's my thoughts on driving in the rain, and we'll dig a bit more into AC's EVO in the coming days. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.